my lifetime, I think I can only think really of two occasions when our late and brilliant monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, actually showed emotion. You know, the sort of thing where she became very tearful. And you would have thought, of course, that there would have been many occasions over the years. According to my sources, the reason why Queen Elizabeth didn't show emotion was that she felt it didn't help and didn't want to make anybody feel any worse by showing her own personal turmoil. There were one or two moments though, weren't there? You know, particularly those that really struck a chord with her. Remember at the Remembrance Sunday service where literally she was overcome with emotion and couldn't hide it. And that was obviously a very moving moment because we knew, like everybody else watching that day, it struck a chord with so many. But of course there was someone else who literally brought our late and brilliant monarch, Queen Elizabeth, to tears. And this was all thanks to his reckless behaviour that many years later he claimed, well, he wished he hadn't have done it. But also it saw him clash with Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, so much so they never spoke again. As ever, let me explain. Morning, good to see you. Thank you so much as ever for your time today on this nicely glorious day so far. And as ever, I'm glad you enjoyed our afternoon out at the museum. Yes, I hope to do more of those for you. Fascinating stuff, isn't it? So many of you remember this schoolroom, not the Victorian schoolroom, but the desks and things. I think we must have had like the remnants of what was left maybe 100 years ago, because everything's more modern now, isn't it? It's like being sat in a cafe when you go into school today. You think, right, you know, I mean, it was just very severe. Do you remember the doors with the square glass at the top where other teachers would peer in? Make you jump sometimes because they were checking whether the class was behaving or not. A lot tougher now, I think, for teachers to make their rowdy pupils behave because of, well, a breakdown, shall we say, let's put it kindly. Thank you, though, for enjoying our afternoon out. Back as ever to our royal story of the day. Now, some people might say that this was the man that literally broke the Queen. We're talking, of course, the former British Prime Minister, Tony Blair. And he did it rather cruelly, in fact, because what I always find fascinating about the Blair sort of years is this. There was one particular man, Alistair Campbell, and he sort of put himself out there as a spin doctor. The spin doctor basically is a liar, you know. Whatever story the media puts out, they spin it into something more compatible to what they want the story to be. It's fascinating with him. If you follow his career, he still thinks he is somebody. I've met him on numerous occasions. Very difficult person, and I'm being kind here. Very, very ill-mannered whenever you meet him, and definitely still thinks he's a cut above, but we'll leave that there. What's fascinating is it was his spin doctor alongside the then British Prime Minister, Sir Tony Blair, that literally brought Her Majesty the Queen to tears. And it was all regarding the decommissioning of the Royal Yacht Britannia. Remember that? And what was fascinating about this was nobody actually asked for it. You know, it wasn't a vital point to save money, literally in the government thing, but they decided, particularly that particular government at that point, that this would work very well with the British public, you know, get rid of something so symbolic. Forgetting, of course, that the Royal Yacht Britannia wasn't just a personal home. It was used for ambassadorial occasions, visiting dignitaries. It was the piece de resistance in showing British at its best. When that yacht came into the harbours of the world, people gathered round. It was a spectacle. It was showmanship. Of course, Tony Blair only liked showmanship about himself, some say. But it was the decommissioning that finally pushed Her Majesty the Queen over the edge when she finally said goodbye. But this was something that the late Duke of Edinburgh, His Royal Highness Prince Philip, never forgave Tony Blair for. In public, they may have got on, you know, cordially well because of the cameras. Behind the scenes, I was told, he could not abide him, simply because of the fact that he'd brought his wife to such an upset state. And apparently to appease this situation, many years later, he said it was possibly one of the things that he shouldn't have done had he been further into his premiership. Proving, of course, as we're now seeing over here in the United Kingdom, that half of them do not know what they're doing, don't listen to the will of the British public, and obviously don't care to someone who's given their life, you know, in a life of service, even by that point, for so many years. So when you think about how upset, say, the Queen was about certain things, according to my sources, it was this that literally pushed her over the edge, and it was this man who did it. It's a strange case, isn't it, of how history unravels. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.